What is the #1 cause of divorce? An interesting predictor of divorce is if the woman out-earns a man. Divorce seems to be less likely when the man earns more. Things like the man feeling insecure, which causes problems. The woman wanting a higher-earning man and not feeling supported. Feelings of emasculation. Belittling of the man for not earning enough, etc. All speculative, of course, but interesting nonetheless. As an extension or property of yourself rather than an independent human that can have different wants or preferences and deserves agency to make choices as long as they are respectful of your marriage. That there's no more shared interests or hobbies. That the task of raising kids has made them lose sight of each other. And that the only thing keeping them together was their wish to be good parents. Some couples separate in that situation, leading to a divorce. Others communicate, sometimes with the help of marriage counseling, and make new plans for a future together. Women never having enough being happy. Women start the vast majority of divorces, and you would argue that's because men are terrible husbands. Truth is, lesbian marriages have the highest divorce rate, around 75. At the same time, homosexual marriages have the lowest divorce rate, way below than straight marriages. Keeping a woman happy in a marriage, it's almost impossible for other women according to statistics, and quite difficult for men. Simple. People not vetting their proposed partner properly, which incentivized by the lowering difficulty of getting a divorce. Marriage is supposed to be a relatively permanent agreement that is being treated more and more as an escape or a simple fantasy at the cost of the other party involved. The other party isn't totally innocent, as they should have done a more thorough job of investigating their partner motives, but ultimately are the victims. IP just ended, and for me it was basically us being on the same page for 5 years, then her realizing she would rather have sex with a ton of people and explore more, since when we met we were teenagers. In reality, I stuck with my plan, and she regrets her decisions massively because she realized sex with strangers usually sucks, and she now has a stalker. So that didn't end well for her. Competition, keeping score with your spouse. If you are tracking how much you did versus how much your spouse did of anything, just stop. Marriage is a giving relationship. Sometimes you have to be the bigger person and do more than your share to get out of that rut. My first marriage failed in part because I was competitive with my spouse. My second has been strong for a decade because I learned my lesson. If you break the cycle of emotional and physical intimacy, obviously gender is a spectrum, so this can flip, but generally women need emotional intimacy to feel safe and open for physical intimacy. Generally men tend to need physical intimacy to feel safe and open for emotional intimacy. When that's humming along in a nice circular choo-choo train, things are great. When that stops, that's where the trouble starts. Money. Typically, usually the root cause. I work a very high-stress, high-paying job that I absolutely hate, while my wife has a low-paying job that she loves. I can't quit my job because of our mortgage, and tuition of our kids' private school requires my high salary, slowly killing me having no support structure or family to help. If it wasn't for the fact we need the money, we'd both be happy. That they don't actually like the other person. Why that will never be met, and once the relationship has run its course, they cannot admit it, is their inability to adapt, and they are stuck in a constant loop of bad relationships. Healthy, honest communication. Partners have to feel heard and feel safe asking questions and sharing needs. A lack of this leads to financial problems and infidelity. Of course, it wouldn't have helped my marriage, as my partner of 15 years, 5 dating and 10 married, came out of the closet around our son's 3rd birthday. Lack of communication didn't make him gay. People tend to be infatuated with each other when they get married, and not actually in love. Huge difference, and it's very important you know it. If you've ever seen your friend marry someone after knowing them for 2 months, that's probably infatuation, and it usually ends poorly. Not always. Love takes time, but patience is hard to come by these days. It's the responsibility of every married person to make the life of their partner easier than it would be if they were single. At its base, this requires mutual respect, consideration, compassion, and the willingness to cooperate. If this doesn't exist in a marriage, it doesn't mean that divorce is inevitable, but it will ensure unhappiness. Lack of connection. Arguments themselves aren't bad unless you don't find a way to connect back after that. Without connection, resentment builds. You have to nurture those little moments of connection. A loving touch look, a kind gesture, accountability, a real apology. Those tiny moments of connection keeps the respect and love alive. Stepchildren. My kids from previous relationship are with me full time. And my wife hates it. She left me behind. I'm not holding the children hostage. Their mum just has for additional children afterwards and bad characters such as unable to maintain employment or residence. My wife hates this. I'm going through a divorce right now. To people who refuse to be part of a group, there are so many people going into wedlock that are set in their ways and more or less want a roommate with benefits that they can show off. Sadly, a lot of births are like this as well. It is all for media clout, to take them and show them off, but at home they wish the child didn't exist. People not taking the time to understand each other and their boundaries. People's ultimate FOMO is dating, because they want what other perfectly seeming couples want. So they chase for that. They pick people who are largely incompatible with just to try and acquire the scenarios. And they just keep finding themselves in shit. Marital problems come down to selfishness, cheating, disrespect, poor finances, lack of communication, lack of intimacy, growing apart. Even parenting problems are caused by selfishness. Not all scenarios are the same. I can tell you the root is usually a me, or I want or I feel mentality. Lack of compatibility, either sexual or hobbies, interests, or maybe lack of communication, which could improve all the above. A lot of my co-workers, when they got to 50 or so, and kids were 18, got divorced. People change. They don't remember or want to put effort into dating their spouse, or tired of lack of sex. Marriage is the one cause of divorce, haha no. From what I always hear, it's usually about money. Ever let anyone tell you money isn't important? It's not about the money. Money shouldn't be an issue. XDC, no, it's very important. Is it the most important thing? No. But it's very important. A lot of people will say lack of finances. But what about the rich who also get a divorce? To me, the reason for divorce is incompatibility, which they couldn't see before jumping into the union. And they are not willing to make concessions for the marriage to work. So they just separate. Middle-age divorce. Once the romance is gone, the affection is soon to follow. Then you are roommates, and you know how annoying roommates can be. And your spouse starts getting fat, mailing it in. You start thinking about mortality. Do I want to do this for another 20, 30 years? Fuck no. Parenthood. You lose a lot of respect for the other person when you find out they expect you to do most of the hard work. Split custody arrangements start to look extremely appealing when it seems like the only way of getting the other person to step up and contribute equally. There's several important factors, from finances to lack of trust, but it all comes down to communication from my POV. Lack of respect and being stubborn are tough on marriages, but being flexible and having solid communication, understanding, and respect will get you through it. A thing promised by Hollywood and such, which of course cannot be done, happiness being an internal condition, leading to mutual tensions and blame game between the partners when it fails to happen. Money. Or things caused by money. Money might not buy you happiness, but it can sure as shit keep you out of the gutter. I mean, just being able to talk about vacation without having to worry about cost is a great way to start an unstressful vacation. Abuse, and specifically emotional abuse in the form of cheating. I know I'm going to get 1,000 actually answers, but the truth of the matter is that people keep hurting and leaving each other because they can't trust one another. To do a certain thing and lead a specific kind of life for as long as they live, no matter what happens or who they become, is a very stupid thing to promise, with severe penalties for not doing so. In my area, the woman is always blamed for a divorce, also for kids having problems. I accepted that until my brother-in-law from another part of the country said there's two in a marriage and the kids have to parents. Too many people have sex as the main cornerstone of their relationship. Once the sex becomes played out, the relationship dies. It's okay to form a relationship around things other than sex or how hot the person is. Incompatibility. Doesn't matter if the divorce is because of cheating, heading on different paths, whatever. The bottom line is that two people thought they were compatible and then found they weren't. Not communicating. My brother and sister's marriage are falling apart because they refuse to communicate with their partners or vice versa. Me and my wife are going strong because we talk about everything. Tied for first: money, sex, family, money not enough, too much spending, one person to controlling, sex not enough, infidelity. Family in-laws can kill a marriage. Having children can kill a marriage. Selfishness, whether from one side or both. Sure, money is the #1 reason for studies, but it all boils down to how couples treat each other when they go through trials, financial or otherwise. I bet psychologists will agree that inability or lack of experience in emotional communication with your partner is one. But if you ask divorced couples, it's financial insecurities and/or infidelity. There was actually a study done on this. I wish I had a link for it. The results were as follows. Married couples thought it was communication. Divorced couples said it was a lack of respect. End of love. Everything else is incidental. Love is like walking through doors. At first you walk through them together, but at some point, one gets ahead or the other falls behind.